Well, let's bring our committee to order. I believe everybody, Marjorie's present. Good, I appreciate all of you being here. I know this is getting old sometimes. We're not done yet. We got ways to go. Anybody have a comment about the committee, from the committee, before we start our business proceedings? Anybody have a question or a comment? If not, first on our agenda tonight, we're going to hear from Lost and Found Animal Care Coordinator, Rabies Vaccines, Bully Farm.
Yes, sir. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
My name is J.D. Sager. I'm president of Sager's Bully Farm Animal Rescue Group. We are a nonprofit 501c currently in good standing with the IRS and the state of Tennessee. I'm here tonight to request that the Commission continue to approve the funding of the Animal Care Coordinator Lost and Found Coordinator Program. This program has been in place and partially funded by the county since 2014. Last year, the Commission approved to pay the full amount of $18,000 for 2021. At your convenience later on, please read and refer to our 2022-2023 budget request. This request provides a lot of background information to the Commission and further explains the duties of the ACC. Will they take on, please pass it around. In the past, the program was always under the supervision of the Humane Society of Dover until last November of 2021. At that date, Tom Coulter gave his resignation and moved to Texas. The Humane Society of Dover was going through some changes and was looking for another animal rescue group to take over and supervise the program. The Safety Farm offered to take over the ACC program and supervise a new ACC person. This is a contracted position, so the person hired is considered a contractor and they must file and pay their own self-employment taxes. Initially, the first person that we hired did a very poor job. Calls were not being returned, phones were lost, and phone numbers had to be changed. I fired her and subsequently hired Ms. Shannon Summer. She is currently learning how to handle all the various phone calls and private messages that come in requesting help with stray animals, rehoming animals, or lost and found animals. The requested $18,000 is used to strictly pay for the contracted position. The county sends the funds to the farm, and in turn, we pay her on a weekly basis. The payout breakdown for 2021 to 2022 was as follows. We paid Tom Coulter $6,576. We paid Victoria Exon $5,885. And from March to present, we paid Ms. Shannon Summer $2,076. There remains a balance of $3,462 to pay the ACC from present to June of this year. The letter provided to you explains all the duties the ACC performs. Over the years, this ACC position has proven to be highly successful in reuniting lost and found pets. When a pet can be returned to owner, is one less stray off the streets. The stray and abandoned animals in Stewart County continue to be a gigantic problem. Currently, there are 4 animal rescue groups in Stewart County. At any given time, these groups are usually full to the max. These are numbers for the following. At my farm, there are 47 dogs and puppies in our care. Faithful Friends has 7 dogs and 1 cat. Hot Rod's Garage is caring for 20 dogs. Cat adoption team of Stewart County, which was formerly the Humane Society, which is now cats, have 38 cats and kittens and 1 dog. All these numbers are all Stewart County animals taken in as strays or rehomings. Many rehomings are from when the owner has died or an owner can no longer care for the pets. I'll give you a snapshot of the amount of phone calls and messages she receives. This is just for 1 month. We got 16 dogs at large, 2 stray cats, 11 aggressive phone calls, which were from the police department, which we went out and we assisted with the sheriff's department on. 11 AC calls from the dispatch. We had 14 intakes, 22 puppy intakes. We reunited 5 dogs with their owners. Okay, there was 4 dogs from the lady that had passed away from COVID, that we went out and picked up, with the sheriff's department. We were able to rehome 46 dogs and help, like I said, 5 be reunited with their owners. I want to close this by saying all the local animal groups mentioned above continue to work together on a stray animal program. We keep in close contact and communicate often on a private Facebook group called For the Love of Animals. We've all worked very hard, very long to make sure the animals in this county are taken care of. Thank you for requesting me to come here tonight and giving me your time. And that's all I have. If there's any questions you have.
What do you determine a stray is? What do you determine a stray? What determines a stray animal?
If we get a phone call for a dog at large and we cannot find an owner, that is a stray animal.
But you don't pick up dogs that's got a collar on with a name tag on him and everything?
No, if the dog has a collar on with a phone number or something, we contact the owner. And I'm really working hard on getting people to understand that if a dog has a collar on, it is probably somebody's dog.
Well, I'm gonna tell you an incident that happened on my dog, and it happened just a week or two ago.
Okay.
The woman stopped right in front of a person's house, picked my dog up, put him in the car, had my name tag, collar, the dog clicked a button.
Yeah.
He's a hunting dog. Well, they stopped in the middle of the road, picked my dog up, they put it in the car.
Yeah,
My neighbor seen it. My neighbor seen it. He knew the dog, he gave me the dog, he knew the dog. And he stopped the lady and said, "Why are you picking this dog up? What are you doing?" She said, "He's a stray." He said, "He ain't no stray." He said, "That dog has got a collar on, name tag," and she argued with him.
Yeah,
And said, "No," and she would not turn that dog. He had to get forceful with her before she would turn that dog loose.
Yeah.
And if it hadn't been for my neighbor, I guess my dog would have been gone.
Yeah, no,
And that's where I'm wanting to know whether you determine a stray or,
a stray would be a dog with no collar on.
well, I would say a stray, if he's poor looking, not being abandoned, not being taken care of, I can understand it.
Yes, sir. In
But
your
this
case,
person picked my dog up, and she's gonna take off with him.
I'll be the first one to say, I don't want your dog, Terry, I'm not gonna come pick it up.
Uh,
If he's got a collar with a name on it, I'm gonna try to find the owner, I don't want to go around picking up dogs.
I live on LB Hill, right next to it, 170,000 acres.
I read your post, I
Well,
understand.
anyhow, it upset me big time. I tried to find out who the lady was. I couldn't find out who it was. And most of the time, a hunting dog, if they'll leave him alone, he'll go back home. And the word this dog was, he wasn't a half a mile from my house.
And I can tell you, usually if somebody does contact them or us about it, if the dog's healthy, the dog looks well taken care of, we tell them, leave the dog alone. It is not a stray.
I don't know whether he's planning on stealing my dog, I don't know. But anyhow,
I would not consider that a stray.
I wish I knew who the lady was. I tried to find out.
I believe there's a couple people on Facebook trying to figure out who she was, 'cause I don't believe that's the only incident where she has tried to do this.
And that's what I'm hearing that. I don't go by hearsay, you know,
We're keeping an eye out.
my understanding that she's doing this other places too.
We are keeping, and that is another thing that we do as the group, you know, we make sure we communicate when stuff like that happens, because if it was my dog, she probably got shot.
Well, you know, if it had been from my neighbor and they let me have the dog, he knew the dog, knew the whole situation. And, this lady was taking my dog and argued with him and said that it was a stray. And I didn't appreciate her at all. In fact, I wish I knew who it was.
If she had contacted us, we'd have told her to turn the dog loose.
Why were you not on the nonprofit list to start with? Did you just couldn't make the meeting, or?
No, I didn't put them on there, because we've never included them on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's been, just real quick, they are a nonprofit, Humane Society was the one before, but we've used the Rabies Vaccines running short on our rabies vaccine. This is our last year that we're gonna have enough, unless we get another large contribution from the bi-county again. But the rabies vaccine is only coming in at $3,000 or $5,000 a year, and we're having to pay, you know, $18,000 a year.
Yeah.
So.
What's your opinion? We've got 3 groups already on this nonprofit. Humane Society of Dover Stewart County, Stewart County Animal Management Program, SCAMP, and Faithful Friends Animal Rescue, and then yours will make 4. What's your opinion of these people merging for a common good? Don't you think you could have a stronger group if everybody worked together, or not? I mean, tell me the truth.
There are personality conflicts, with some members in different groups. Some groups wanna do different things than.
Well, you just got different ideas of how the animals should be handled, or?
Yes, sir.
Is it simply kill and no kill?
We are majority no kill,
But is that the issue that you're having when getting all the groups together?
sometimes. Yes. But,
Well, do these groups, do they perform different services? I mean, or they basically perform the same service, but just independent of one another?
basically the same service, independent of one another.
Okay.
Now, the money for the animal care coordinator is strictly, we are just the supervisor of it, but everybody else works together. The money comes to us, and then we pay Shannon as an independent contractor.
If these other groups needed your help, would you respond to them?
Yes,
You would?
we have.
Okay.
Yes, there's been times when they've, asked us for assistance, or we've asked them for assistance.
Do they respond to you?
Yes, very much so. Hot Rods Garage is another one of the newer ones, that's 501c in our county. And when we had the lady that passed away with the 4 dogs, it was 4, right? Or 2. Hot Rods Garage, Shannon reached out to them because they do mostly the smaller dogs, and these were smaller dogs. And we asked her, hey, can you take these 2 in? And she did. And that's another form of function of what she does, is working within the groups to see who can take which animals that come in. So she's in constant contact with everybody on that list.
Okay. Anybody else have a question?
Mike, gentlemen,
We appreciate you.
I appreciate your time.
Now, Heather, you want to respond to this about the funding?
Yeah, basically, you're gonna see 2 new, things added to nonprofit that have never been there before. And the reason we're doing that is because we learned from the state comptroller's office that we need to include any nonprofit, regardless if it's something where we're contracting separately. So the chamber, who we give hotel motel tax to, that's, being requested this year. Actually, I've already spoken to y'all on that budget. That was the, tourism budget, but that is being requested, going from 18,000 to 26,000. So I will be adding that to our nonprofit as well. And then the Sagley, where we've always just done that separately contracted, I'm gonna start to include it. We will use all the rabies vaccine revenue that comes into the county first to cover that cost, and any kind of contributions, whether we've had bi-county be the main, contributor in the past, to go ahead and offset that. Where the other nonprofits don't have any kind of tax or revenue stream coming in, where it's just straight coming from property
Right.
tax or sales tax revenue.
What is there, will there be enough in the rabies fund this year to cover?
This will be the year that's coming up. We're okay in the current fiscal year, but the coming up in 22, 23, we're gonna be short a certain amount, and I can speak exactly to that amount tomorrow.
Okay.
But, it's the rabies vaccines. We've seen a decline in them. I don't know if that's because people are not vaccinating dogs as much, but we're actually seeing a decline, not an increase in that revenue.
Mayor?
I can answer,
Go ahead.
I can answer to that. I took my dogs to Montgomery County and got a 4-year,
Oh, and that might be what some people are doing now.
a 3-4 year, yeah.
And that.
Instead of having to load them up and run them down there every year, you take Montgomery County, they give a 3-year, or at least 3 or 4 year rabies vaccine.
That might be part of it.
Mayor, just to give you a little background on the question you asked about the specific duties of each group. I think Stewart County Animal Management Program, SCAMP, I believe they're a spay and neuter program, is that right?
That's correct.
Spay and neuter, and then Faithful Friends is another group, and then the Humane Society is kind of phasing out. They're transitioning into the cat action team, cats. And then, so what's happened is that JD and his group have stepped up. Because Humane Society is transitioning out, they're stepping up, so we really appreciate what they're doing for the county.
Okay, so they're kind of taking up the slack for.
Yes, they are.
Any other questions or comments? Sir, we appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
I believe we got the school budget tonight. Be on page 1. Where do they want to start? We're good, Mr. Craig, Mr. Williams, Mr. Joe.
Not here to get your dog, I promise.
We got a big budget here. Thumb through it tonight and see if you see anything that jumps out at you. And we'll let you take it home and, give you at least a week to comb through it and mark your questions. But, you can ask them tonight if you see something. I know y'all don't want to go line item by line item.
How you know that?
You want to go line item by line item?
I would rather not.
You hiding
So,
something?
if that's what you need.
What's
You ain't
that?
hiding something, are you?
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely not.
Let me ask you 2 or 3 questions before we start. Are you asking for any new local property tax in this budget?
There is an increase in property tax and revaluation, but it wasn't a request, it was just the way.
Well, that's automatically gonna come to you.
Right.
But you're not asking.
There's additional money, but it's not, we're not asking for any new.
Okay.
new
Has the
funds.
board approved this budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's 2 questions answered. In your capital request, and you may won't get to that last, I don't know, but I'll just ask it in front. Has the board considered buying into these buses with their fund balance? Have they discussed that or talked about
No,
that?
our fund balance at this current time is about 16% of our budget. The state comptroller requires us to keep it 15%. The fund balance was there this year when we dipped into it pretty good with the chillers we put in at the high school.
Yeah.
And we had some other unforeseen costs, so having a healthy fund balance came in. We were able to do that without hurting much. We're looking at, we didn't get the premium paid through the county, so we're looking at the best way we can reward our employees and looking more at, when we get our BEP final numbers and, coming up estimates, we're gonna have a plan to where we can, do something for our employees either through long-term raise or a one-time thing. We're still working on that. But we are gonna use some ESSER funds there, but that was not in our original plan. Our ESSER 1 is done. We'll expend all that at the end of this year. ESSER 2 is mainly been for summer camp, and then ESSER 3, we have a number of capital projects that we're gonna have to get done. We have buildings that have, high school's not the first one, we have buildings that have, old, heat and air units, things like that. We've got a couple of roofs that need to be looked at strongly. So, we're trying to make sure we keep that fund balance strong to be able to do those projects.
All right, I don't know, Mr. Quinn, you want to just start with page 1 and just kind of highlight through it?
This budget is very similar to the last few years. I mean, it doesn't change much. The change in, property tax and revaluation, we've got a little more, sales tax budgeted this year than we have in the past, but, revenues are pretty well level on page 1. Page 2, you get to the BEP, and that's always one that we discuss each year. We have not received our initial BEP, estimate yet. We should get it this week, and I anticipate BEP being larger than it was. As Mr. Craig said, we're hoping that we can use that increase, any increase we get, to pass on to our employees in the form of raises or premium pay or something along those lines.
How is enrollment?
Enrollment's up a little bit.
And they're scuttlebutt through the state.
with the new funding formula that's being considered by the legislature, there's gonna be, a little bit more money given to the local school systems to cover the bridge till that funding formula goes into effect.
Can you explain the math on the BEP formula?
No, I cannot.
It's only about 145 pages.
No,
I just figured I'd throw that
If you
jab
can
out
explain
there.
it, well, we got a job for you. You come
Okay.
in, we'll go on tour and we'll make money explaining it. So, but no, I cannot.
I can explain.
I figured you could.
The new formula is gonna give Cherry County more money?
That's what the projections are showing. But we also are gonna be required to do some different things too, is like, a lot of these block grants we get for like, coordinated school health, things like that, that's gonna be included in that, so we won't be having to go through all the grant writing that we may have to do now. But they're making us feel like we're gonna get more money. And every projection that they've shown us, our estimates, I think it was like $2 million would be, more from the state. That's not until 2023, 2024. This next year is gonna be a transition year to the new TISA, and I can't remember the exact, but those words, what those letters stand for, but that's the new funding formula they come up with.
Go ahead. Back to the bottom line, I mean, I left BEP level as to what we got this current school year, which is $12.6 million. Like we've done in the last few years, we'll have to come back after we get that BEP allocation and do some amendments.
You don't think it'll be less than that then?
I hope not. I hope not.
We don't see it being any less.
I mean, the governor has said all along that, you know, there will be a raise for teachers in this year's budget, so I would say that BEP would have to go up to accommodate anybody getting a raise in any school system. But, page 3, the last page of the revenues, again, it's very, very similar, to the last few years. It's, one thing that we talked about in the past is that line 89, that $25,000, that is a reimbursement we get for some special ed services that we get a reimbursement through the insurance companies back to the county. That's one we've talked about in years past. Go to page 4, this is where we start spending money. And almost half of our budget is encapsulated in that 71100, that very first category in the budget. And we looked at 5.45 million, that's regular ed teachers. That's the bulk of our teaching staff. Currently, that's about 107 employees. We are adding we're gonna pay for, in this proposed budget, we've got the addition of a math coach that will work with teachers to improve math instruction. We're also paying for one out of federal, so like the K-5 person will be paid out of federal, the 6 through 12 person will be paid through GP. The other things in that category are all the benefits, teacher assistants. The bulk of our teacher assistants are in that $295,000, and all of the benefits that go along with that, Social Security, pensions, things like that. The last line, the 722 line, we've got $75,000 in there for regular instruction equipment. Typically, we buy technology with that money. You notice this year we haven't spent as much as we normally do because we had ESSER money to offset some of those purchases. We did shift some of that money over to the technology line, 72250, later in the budget to pay for some infrastructure things. This is instructional equipment, but we did shift some of that money over to pay for some switches and cabling that we did at all 4 schools. Also on page 1, 71150 is our alternative instruction program, the ALC. That is teacher, 1 assistant, and some money for equipment and supplies. 71200 on page 5, top of page 5 is the special ed program. This is 12 teachers, do have, and that eats up the bulk of that one, it's $645,000, and then, the other big expense in that category is medical insurance, which we all know that's expensive. 71300 is our, career and technical education program. The, CTE program is your shop classes, things like that, ag, building trades, cosmetology, family, consumer science. That's 10.5 teachers. We do put a little money in there for, instructional supplies for these programs, because they do have consumable things that they use in their classrooms that, go above and beyond what a regular classroom teacher would use. And y'all stop me if you have any questions about any of these as I'm going through. Page 6 is the attendance program. This is a partial salary for one of our supervisors. They also have their salary paid out of the pre-K line later in the budget. Again, benefits. You see other contracted services, that's our student management system. That's where we pay for the program that keeps up with the students' attendance, the grades, their record keeping. We get a direct reimbursement, most of that from the state, about $14,000 comes in for student management. It costs us about $17,500, so the state pays for the bulk of that. 72120 is health services, which that is a lot of this is offset by the coordinated school health grant, which is $130,000. But this pays for the director. Also in this category, you see the 4 school nurses are paid for. The medical personnel, that's school nurses and nurse supervisor. Page 7, other student support. This is big thing in this is the guidance counselors. Got four guidance counselor at each school. And also a big part of this category is the $110,000 down there that go for school resource officers under contracts with government agencies. That's money we send back to the county for pay for the school resource officers. We have 5 school resource officers. We have 1 in each school and then a sergeant supervisor. 72210 is the supervisor category pays for partial payment of 2 supervisors, myself and Dr. Duncan. Part of our salary comes out here. The other part of Dr. Duncan's salary comes out of the federal program. The other part of my salary comes out of technology. And I split my salary so that it doesn't all go toward technology, because that changes our per pupil expenditure on technology, and it would skew it a little bit. Also, you see the librarians. That's the librarians in the schools. And the rest of it is kind of the benefits and things that go along with those employees. 72220 is another special ed category. This is where we pay the special ed director, psychological personnel. We have 1 school psychologist that serves the entire school district. Other contracted services you see down there on line 280, item 399. That is the other services that our special ed department contracts with agencies to provide occupational therapy, physical therapy, things of that nature. 72230 is travel money that we have there for instructors and supervisors in the career and technical education program. They have to travel a little bit more than normal teachers, so we have a little money set aside there. 72250 is technology. Again, part of my salary is paid there. The data processing personnel you see under 121, those are the maintenance guys that take care of the computers and the network within the buildings. The line 301 is our internet cost, and point out that is 20% of the total bill the internet. The rest of that is offset by, a federal program, my mind just went blank, it's through USAC, it's, Universal Services for schools and libraries, and it's based off of our numbers on, free and reduced lunches. So, 42.5 is the portion we pay for internet for the schools. On page 9, Board of Education, this is fairly level with years past. This is where we pay the board members for their fees, audit services for the schools, legal services, other things of that nature. Workman's compensation insurance is a big part of that, $180,000. And also on that page is 72320, which is the director of schools. In that category, we're paying for Mr. Craig's salary, the secretary that we have at the board office. You see down there communication, $40,000. That's phone bills for the schools, and also includes our automated school reach, school messenger that calls parents on snow days and things of that nature. And then the last thing in that category is $45,000 for other charges, and the bulk of that goes for the copiers. We split that between office of the principal and director of schools for the copying machines that are in all of our buildings. 72410 at the top of page 10 is the office of the principal. This is where principal salaries, assistant principal salaries, accountants, bookkeepers. These are basically administrative staff for the schools. And again, you see down there 599, $50,000 for other charges. These are copiers and other contracts that we maintain for the schools. 72510 Fiscal Services. This is the district-wide accountant, payroll people, and clerical personnel that manage payroll records and human resources records and things of that nature. We've changed that up a little bit. We've got a payroll person, we've got a bookkeeper that's paid out of the first line, we've got a human resources and a benefits person paid out of the 162 line item. So there's 2 people paid out of each line there. And then the data processing services, that's the software, the accounting software and different human resources softwares that we use for record keeping. 72610 is the operation of the plant. This is where we get into custodial services, which is the other contracted services, the 399. It's also our electric bill. Budgeted a little more going forward in electricity. Cost has gone up a little bit for electricity. We brought you an amendment earlier in the year. We told you that our current propane bid is almost double what we had last year. So we budgeted more money into the propane line as well. We also have our building and contents insurance coming out of this category. Page 11.
I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
391 pest control, so you're going to 6,400 and that.
All right. Bert, say that again. What?
391 pest control.
391, yes, sir. Yeah, we moved that over into other contracted services. We still have a pest control contract, but because it was a contracted service, the comptroller asked us to move that into other contracted services. Top of page 11, maintenance of plant. This is our maintenance supervisor and his crew, which are currently 6 full-time, 2 part-time people, so a total of 7 slots in our maintenance department. We did try to bump up some of the maintenance repair building, maintenance repair equipment lines, to give him more money to keep our buildings in order. 72710 is transportation. This is where we pay our bus drivers or mechanics, pay for the upkeep and operation of the bus fleet and other vehicles that we own. One thing that's kind of a wild card in this part of the budget is when you get down to diesel fuel and gasoline. You know where we sit right now on the price of diesel fuel, it's outrageous. But we've always kind of had a padding in that, because we know that's a volatile thing, so we kept a little money in there. So I didn't raise it much, but I did raise it some, but that's one I'll definitely have to keep an eye on as we get into the budget next year if the price of diesel fuel doesn't come down. Gasoline, I budgeted a little more in gasoline because, we do burn some gas, but the bulk of the gasoline we get is paid for through the county. The county buys their gas from us. It's what the sheriff's department, the area, the sheriff's
ambulance
service. They burn more gas than we do, so we're kind of in the gas business at that point. And bus drivers, I budgeted a little more there because they're getting harder and harder to come by, and I wanted room if we needed to do anything to try to attract bus drivers, or if anything like that. So I put a little extra money in there this year, and I figure also we'll have more field trips and more than we have the last couple of years that we'll need to offset. On page 12, and there are a couple times in the budget, I failed to mention it the other time, where you see COVID-19 expenditures. Those are things that the auditor singled out on the 2021 budget and categorized them out so that she could keep up with it for her records. But that's not something that is reoccurring. 73100 is food supplies. That is just money we use for if we have school meals, school banquets, things like that, that we pay for through the board office. Community service 73300 is the family resource grant. We got right at $29,000 family resource grant. This is just the expenditure of those funds. Bulk of that is the director, family resource director. 73400 is the pre-K program, and again, part of the supervisor's salary is paid out of that supervisor director line, but the bulk of it is teachers and assistants, $220,000 for teachers, $97,500 for assistants, and this is our pre-K program that we have in both elementary schools. Capital outlay on page 13 is the we've put $50,000 down there for vehicles. That is, we hope to buy a truck for transportation and a truck for our maintenance program. Right now, they're driving some vehicles that have a ton of miles on them, and we've got to start getting some better vehicles in. At the very bottom of page 13, you'll see where we stand. At the beginning of this year, we had a fund balance of $4.2 million. Like as Mr. Craig said earlier, we hit that fund balance for about $800,000 this year, between raises for teachers and the chillers at the high school and things like that. So we're projecting an ending balance of $3.378 million. This budget does deficit at $331,000, so we're projecting a $3 million fund, right at a $3 million fund balance at the end of next year. So we still have a healthy fund balance, but it's not real high over the 15%.
I know we've gone through this kind of quickly. Is there any other questions for tonight? We'll have time to stay over it and mark your questions. Before we take a vote and try to get you an answer if you have a question on some of these line items. I'll stay with it as long as the committee wishes me to stay tonight. We won't go any further till you say you're ready to move on. y'all may have to come back one night before we vote and answer questions if they have them, after they've had time to study.
This budget just passed Thursday night, so I sent it the other Thursday night, so I know y'all haven't had it long.
Yeah, what now?
It passed, the board passed this budget Thursday night. so
Thursday,
I-
okay.
I sent it to Heather Thursday night, so I know you haven't had it long.
Yeah,
About now.
no, we just got
Yeah.
we just got it
Not
tonight.
now.
Gotcha.
But we're gonna give them time, I mean, we're not,
Yes, sir.
not even thinking about trying to vote on it tonight. Everybody ready to move on? Okay, y'all gonna do federal projects?
Yeah, yes, sir. Dr.
Page
Duncan-
12 in our package.
Dr. Duncan, he's filling in for me tonight at the banquet at the high school because of this meeting, so we'll try to, this is the federal budget, he just gave me a few notes to give to you. There's very few changes from the 22 budget. All these allocations are preliminary as we don't get the final numbers from them. Some things to note, there is no ESSER one in this budget, that is done. I think we're gonna spend the last of that money, I think we just spent it. There's like, we had $10,000 left, that was from and it had to be expended by June 30th, 2022. And we are in this, through Title I, we're going to fund a math instructional coach for grades K through 5. This is to assist teachers. You know, the big emphasis has been on literacy and reading the past few years, and now the state, and we're gonna try to get ahead of the game. The next area they're looking at doing more working is through math and math instruction. So we're gonna try to we're gonna put a coach in to help our teachers do better in those areas. And we can go through this, and I can answer what I can, and if not, then come back and let Dr. Duncan go through the federal programs.
Most federal money is pretty much earmarked,
Pretty straightforward.
what you can do with it, and always has been, so we wouldn't have a lot of control over it.
The ESSER money has to be spent according to the plan that we submitted this year. And we won't have, this is very preliminary numbers, you know, the federal budget starts October 1, so we won't see, our final allocations until September.
Right. Any preliminary questions tonight on the federal budget?
How much did y'all get out of this American Rescue Plan?
Remember the number off the top of your head?
I do not, so, sorry.
It's, I see expenditures on it, but I don't see it.
Is the COVID grants the same as the rescue plan, or is that different?
No,
grant?
go down further.
Yeah, it's,
Page 13, you got the expenditures, I just wonder how much did
Yeah.
you?
Oh, yeah, there it is, okay, American Rescue Plan expenditures, right.
I see the expenditures as well, but,
This is back here, we go back to revenue, this is back
I'm
on
looking through the revenues right now. I don't see the American Rescue, oh, there it is, Dottie. We got
Special ed.
special ed got two looks like this year got $112,000 through the American Rescue Plan. And then I don't see any other, revenue coming in on the American Rescue Plan. The bulk of our money, our federal money through COVID has come through the ESSER plan. But, special ed did get 2 allocations, one for 105 and one for 7,000 for, ARP money.
Yeah, but am I wrong in thinking that rescue plan was for teacher raises and stuff?
That was for special ed. Our federal money for the COVID relief was through ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. That's where the bulk of our money came through, so we had to do plans for each one of those, how we were gonna spend it. The American Rescue Plan, that was, most of anything we got through that was mainly earmarked for special education.
Just for special education.
Now, your support services has American Rescue Plan expenditures too, is that right?
Well, that would be that the money coming through the support services would be through the special ed.
That'd be through special ed,
Yes.
okay.
Kind of, as I recall, ESSER is a subset of the American Rescue Plan. So, those ESSER plans are part of that overall, overarching American Rescue Plan. So the ESSER funds are part of that as well.
And what does that stand for exactly?
Elementary, secondary schools, education, relief.
Or something like that?
And all those, we had to submit a plan,
Yeah. How
have
you gonna spend it?
public input from it, open all that up, and all kinds of input from teachers, parents, on what we were gonna spend it on. And it was through 3 different plans. You had ESSER 1, ESSER 2, which we'll have to expend ESSER 2 by the end of this school year, coming up 2023. And then ESSER 3 has to all be gone by 2024.
Yeah.
And that's non-recurring money, and, in order to spend that money other than what we've already planned, we'll have to go back in and resubmit different parts of it and amend it, go back to the board to approve it, come back to y'all to approve any changes that we make. So that's why we were looking at what our revenues were gonna be in the upcoming year on how we would pay for, teacher raises and things like that.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, Miss Jackie, how about the cafeteria fund? Page 15 in our book.
I think the biggest change you're gonna see on my budget, deals with the revenues area. We are going back to paid status meals this next year, unfortunately, for the high school and the middle school. For the past 2 years, we've been able to provide, no-cost breakfast and no-cost lunches, but we're about to go back to normal, as they would say. We are able to operate under a different provision because we have a higher free and reduced, rate at the elementary schools than we do at the high schools. And for that reason, we're gonna be able to continue on providing free meals for those students.
All elementary will still be under free.
And And, yeah, for breakfast and lunch, and the
Yeah.
high school and the middle school will receive, no cost breakfast. However, we'll have to go back to the paid status. I'm still trying to see what I can do to work out to try to get free meals for the students, but the numbers just aren't working really good. We're gonna try to see what we can do by getting the applications in, how our participation in our free and reduced applications in this next fall.
I'm older than anybody here. You know what school lunch was when I went to elementary school?
10 cents,
15 cents.
15 cents.
Yeah. I got to high school, it was a quarter.
I remember when milk was like 5 cents.
It was a nickel, yeah.
Cause I mean.
But anyway, that's beside the point.
Milk doesn't go up much, it's still like a quarter, I think we charge quarter still,
Yeah.
you know, for milk. A quarter or 30 cents, so it's not very. And I mean, even the lunches, they're gonna let us keep the lunch, rates kind of steady at what they are right now for the next year, but eventually we're gonna have to equal it out with whatever we get reimbursed for a free meal, which is like $4.
What does like cost now? I don't even know what I do.
We charge $2.75 right now. I mean, when we go back, that's what it'll be. Unless we vote to increase it, cause it's gonna be, whenever we have to go back and put that formula in, and they make us do it, it's gonna be a shocker, cause it's gonna go from $2.75 probably up to $4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But, you know, I was hoping they would just let us keep free lunches. But it's
It'd be
just not gonna
easier,
happen. So I went
Well, it's
ahead
been
and.
something that's been kinda overlooked because, that's a good service that parents hadn't had to pay for.
I'm gonna tell you, our participation has gone out the roof this year. It has, which, it's helped our revenues, you know, so, I mean, I can't complain, cause we have had a great participation rate at all the schools.
I wished it could stay, but I understand why it came, but you know.
Well, part of the problem, I don't mean to.
That's okay, you go
Part of
ahead.
the problem with keeping it free is when they get to middle and high school, they don't wanna turn in the
Then we'll do our
free
paperwork.
lunch.
They don't
It's just
want
like,
it.
it's not like the kids that qualify for free lunch have left.
Right.
Just when they get older, they don't want anybody.
They don't want that stigma.
And the parent, it's normal, I was guilty of this, when they get older, you kinda don't watch as close as what's
Right.
going on in, you know, at school
Yeah.
and so that's something we're gonna have to do a good job of public relations with people and understand, this isn't we don't have any choice, federal government, they tell us how we can do
Of course.
things there, so.
That's okay, that's good, that's a good point, that's a very good point, because we do seem to lose, the return rate of the applications are not quite as high for the middle school and the high school. And we have online, where the parent can go online and they can apply, so they don't even have to turn in paper application anymore. You know, we try to make it as simple as possible. So, on the revenues end, I went ahead and increased, you know, in all the payment area for that reason, for the children and like for our lunches and for our breakfast. And then if you go on down to line, I ran out the door, I was making sure she was dressing for Miss Eva, when I left out, I forgot my glasses. Under line 38, I went down on breakfast and I went down on the school lunch. And the reason I did is because I just don't know if participation is gonna be quite as good, and we're not gonna be recovering as much at a paid rate. So when you start looking at, the USDA doing the reimbursement, you have to kind of figure out, are we gonna have as many, it's a guessing game, is what it is. So you just try to guess as the best you can to see what your participation is. The next big thing, is on page 17. And, I'm sure nobody here, unless you just don't ever go to the grocery store, or your wives or significant others do the shopping, you'll know that food supplies and food itself have increased astronomically. We have this year received some extra money to help cover that cost. However, next year, I don't know if we'll get any extra or not, but, so I didn't factor that in for next year, for the next school year, but line 79 and line 80, you'll see that, I increased those quite a bit for that reason. Because I've already gone over my line item, there's gonna be a budget amendment coming before y'all pretty soon, you know, because of that. So, we've just gone over, and we still have April, May, and June, because we're operating summer feeding this year, or this, for this, summer school too. And then, you'll notice under motor vehicles, we went ahead and, put $25,000 in. I think it's been 10 years since we've, wouldn't you say?
At least.
Yeah, and, you guys have done a great job helping maintain that, but we are at a point where we have a person in the, maintenance department that helps us out quite a bit, and bless his heart, he's the only one that doesn't, he's the only one that's having to drive that van, and if y'all have ever been in it, I feel like it's one of those Cheech and Chong vans that just rocks up and down when it's going down the road, it just looks like it's bouncing. So, we're looking at maybe, you know, putting some money in and getting a good used vehicle. I don't know if we can find a good used vehicle for $25,000, but, you know, we put it in the budget. And, the rest of it, do you guys have any questions? Cause everything else, I increased a little bit, but I don't think we did anything crazy in any of the other. You got a question?
Are you fully staffed?
I am, and I'm close your ears. I've overstaffed a little bit, simply for the reason, we have people call.
You can share with some of
I
your
don't
fellows.
know, can they drive a bus?
Get the driver bus.
Well, you know, we have these 3-hour positions, and we try to keep extra, because nobody wants to work 3-hour positions, you know, like the monitors in the cafeteria.
I understand that
So,
completely.
yeah. Do I have anybody that I can ask? I can always ask.
I'm just kidding, Ms. Walker.
Well, hey, there's.
I'd even take you.
I know, you said that. You wouldn't say that if, you know, I got that deuce and I have stuck on a hill one day, because we did going again, so.
Oh, I will fix you.
But do you guys have any questions? Feel free to ask.
Anybody have any questions on food services?
We're self-funded, you know, we make our own money, so every once in a while, I think the year of COVID, we got into trouble, and, 141 helped us out, so,
COVID changed everything.
yeah.
Just one quick question.
Mhm.
Line 82, the uniforms, a couple years ago, you're $65, and you're $55.
We didn't do uniforms that year.
Okay.
Well, because,
That's the cafeteria.
yeah, we just didn't do them that year. I don't think any of them wanted them. They said we don't, you know, I
Well,
get
because
input
of the
from the
virus too, probably weren't there as much.
I budgeted for
Yeah.
that, but we just didn't spend it, so. And then they spent like crazy, they all wanted t-shirts this year, so we spent t-shirts. What did you say, Mr. Jones?
I thought maybe the virus is why you didn't get the uniforms, they weren't.
And that may very, was that the year? Because I don't have the years at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may very well be 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Well, it's an important service. I'm a firm believer a hungry child not gonna learn much. I believe that. I always have believed that.
Well, a lot of them don't get a good meal, they can get it.
That's right, that's right. If you're sitting there hungry, it's hard to learn algebra. I'm gonna tell you, it's hard enough to learn it when you're full.
Well, our motto is you can't teach a hungry child, so.
Always said that breakfast was a big thing, you know,
Yeah.
even if they had to carry the classroom,
Breakfast.
they need to eat breakfast.
And many of them do, especially at the high school.
Yeah.
Online.
Any other questions here on food service in the school system? Thank you, Ms. Jackie.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. All right, y'all gonna do bus transportation? We'll do transportation.
Yeah.
Page 18.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is one I spend a lot of time on. We got a balance of 6182 in the transportation fund. We're not anticipating any money coming in or any money going out. So we're, estimated fund balance for June 30th is 6182.
Well, there is a projected number of purchases on, and that is an important page. I think everybody's been asked to do that, and that is something good to have. So you might want to look at that a minute.
Well, I can tell you after talking with, 3 bus manufacturers today, those figures are not correct.
You're not gonna buy them for that, is what you're trying to tell me?
Huh?
You're not gonna buy them for that?
Gonna get them for less than that?
Yeah, we're gonna get them for less than that.
What, 5 years down the road?
If you buy a conventional type bus, that's the bus with the motor in front, the motor with the,
Cow, cow, C-O-W-L,
yeah,
cow.
that's right. They're 13 months out. If you order one today, you get it in 13 months, and, they're about $105,000 to $110,000 a piece. You get one like we currently buy, which is called a Transit, they're about $125,000 a piece, and they're 9 months out at minimum.
We need to be buying the buses this year for the buses we need in 2023.
Well, I'll tell you the position we're in. You know, in 2020, when COVID hit, we didn't buy any buses. The county didn't, the school didn't. To be honest with you, we didn't have no school, so we didn't.
We wasn't using it.
We wasn't using it. So, you know, that kicked the can down the road a little bit. The state lets us run them up to 18 years old. After they pass 15 years old, then we have to pay to have them inspected by the state twice a year. And we've got some already that's running the road every day, 3 of them, that's already past 15 years. So the day they turn 18 years, you can finish out the school year with them, but don't ask to have them inspected again, because they're not gonna do it.
What's it cost to inspect one?
$385 per semester. So that's $770 per bus per year.
Per year.
That's right. So, the buses we buy in this budget year, if you order them on July 1st, they'll get here, somewhat time June of
Next summer.
2023.
Yeah.
And the buses we're running today, that are 15 years old, will be ready to come off by the end of that school year, because we've been forced to take them off.
You said the inspection fee was what now?
$770 a year per bus. If you look down at the bottom of that page, I got it listed down there.
We're getting every one of them we can inspected.
Oh, there it is, they're running me, I'm sorry.
I didn't either.
We try to run them 18 years, right?
Well, yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Have you had any guidance if you cross that 18-year mark and they still haven't seen the buses?
Well, I don't know of any that's happened that way, so.
What if?
Yeah, what if? I don't know.
You have to rent a bus from some bus company, what you have to do.
Probably. And they're in the same
Yeah, I
problem.
think
They
that's 10 years
can't,
is a drop dead date. I don't think they're gonna let you run that
No,
bus.
they won't.
yeah, I don't,
Pass.
well, I'll be honest with you, one of the 15-year-old buses we've got, we've done had to put a $16,000 engine in it, and it's rusted all to pieces. And, that's gonna get to the point, they're gonna say it's not fit to run.
I'm not sure I ever rode one that wasn't any younger than that.
We never did have a new one, did we?
So you're talking about $125,000 a piece.
For the transit,
It's transit.
what we have now.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I probably should talk about this, but how many will a conventional bus carry?
72. What we're buying is 78. And there is a reason. And listen, guys, I'm gonna tell you, these two don't bother me. They don't bring me their problems, and I don't carry them mine, so a lot of this they don't know, but a conventional type bus has got Mr. Joe will know, it's got a 10,000-pound front axle on it, which if that tells you anything about the chassis under it won't take a lot of beating like what we currently use at 18 years. But what we're buying has got a 13,000-pound axle on it, and it holds up. We never have to put kingpins and bushings and all that stuff in it. And
Well, you can turn a transit around half the space, you can turn one of them others around
that's
too.
right.
and that-
Plus, when the kids get off the bus and walk in front of it, you can see where they're going. And the other, you
Whole
know,
lot
it's.
easier to drive.
Hmm?
Whole lot easier to drive.
Oh, yeah, whole lot easier to drive. Mr. Wynn knows he.
There's no doubt, and they're safer too.
Yeah.
But turnaround's a problem a lot of times in Stewart County, now I'm gonna tell you. And those transit buses, you can just turn around in half the space.
All these are 78 passengers, are they pretty well run full, or?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're so short-handed now, they're hacking things.
Well, yeah.
We've got them all condensed down, the buses at North Stewart are all packed, I mean, just from one end to the other. They'll all be running, 60 plus.
That's 78 would be 3 to the seat, correct?
That's 3 to the seat, front to back.
And 3 high schoolers, you can't hardly put.
Yeah, I was gonna say, 3 high schoolers sitting in the seat, not only does it cause problems, it's a little hard to do.
Some of you can't do it, it's impossible.
Right.
They'll fight.
Can't do it.
We put me and you in joke and say, we're gonna fight.
Yeah, more out.
2 big high school students is all you can get in the seat.
You ride them that way for an hour and a half plus. Mr. Craig used his clout to go to the State Board of Education and get us a waiver to this school year to run past an hour and a half. And
It wasn't cloud.
Well-
They were giving them to everybody, because everybody's in the same boat we are.
well, I was bragging on you.
I appreciate it.
Oh, he can give me, yeah.
Well, all he had to do was say, I need it, and he got it.
Or you want the raise or what?
No, it was the time limit on a bus ride.
I'm not about that.
Oh, no. Oh, I got you.
Hey, you got it, yeah.
No.
All right, any other questions from the school personnel on any of this budget tonight, buses or anything else? If not, we're gonna let them go, and with the understanding we may have to recall you now.
We'll be here at your
Okay.
beck and call, folks.
Okay, I appreciate it. Last on our agenda tonight, we have the appropriation request letter from the state forestry, and you have the original agreement, which is very hard to read, but you can read it if you strain and try hard enough. Been around since 1952. That don't mean we have to approve it. When we get to we will start on this stuff tomorrow night with, not the school budget, but with the rest of the county budget on the things we're gonna leave in or take out. And if we don't like that, I guess we can take it out, but we do have an agreement to do it, and we might have to
I
ask.
was the one brought that up, so you won't hear me bring it up no more.
We might have to ask our county attorney if we can legally get out of it. I don't know.
Well, I think he's requesting.
He has requested, yeah, he requested. So any questions about that? If not, we're scheduled to be back tomorrow night. Heather, what I've asked her for is pretty complicated, and she's worked on it and not through yet, but anyway.
And she had jury duty.
Well, I know, and she had jury duty on top of that.
Well, clue us into what you asked her for.
Well, you know what I told you the other night, a summary of who, the people that have made additional requests, like additional personnel or capital projects, all of that stuff that have been asked of us, summarize it where we've got it on one, plus ways to pay for it, etc. You wanna address that, Heather, before we leave, or?
Yeah, I mean, basically what I'm bringing tomorrow, like, I've talked to 2 different banks today, getting interest rates basically on capital outlay notes, because that's gonna be an option if you're looking at capital. So we have a lot of, not just bringing the budgets to you, showing all the revenues, but how are we gonna pay for all the things if we approve all the capital requests and the personnel requests. So I've broken that out with all the additional personnel requests, whether it be an additional person or just an increase in the step scale, what the COLA would look like, cost of living adjustment, and then basically all the capital requests and just the different options that we can look at to see if we wanna fund it, any and all of that.
We got to look at all of that, and I don't know whether we'll get to a point tomorrow night to vote on that or not. I don't know. I can't say at this time. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes and how everybody agrees or disagrees, or what. We'll just all put our 2 cents in and see where where we come out. That's what we're here for, that's why we're making the big bucks, be here.
You know
There's a
something I
couple
don't.
That's why you're making all that mileage money.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple of them.
So,
What time is you up?
well, we started 5. We don't have.
Y'all get out
All
at
the way to
6:30.
the
Okay.
Every we have some long.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Anybody disagree? We're gonna stand adjourned till tomorrow night at 6:30, same place.